What's up everyone, and welcome back to Nexus. In the modern world, freedom of speech is a big issue, with debates revolving around what constitutes free speech and what constitutes hate speech, and should people really be given platforms to talk if all they're gonna do is rant and rave? Well, lots of countries take freedom of speech and censorship to the next level, by stopping parents from calling their kids by certain names. Some of them are ridiculous and you can totally understand why they're banned, while some are ordinary and they could be yours. Watch this video to find out the top 10 names you won't believe are illegal. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get new content similar to this every day. Also, make sure to comment down below letting us know which was your favorite. And for this video, let's see if we can hit the golden like button, which is 1,000 likes, so make sure to drop a like down below. Number 10. In 1993, two Japanese parents were told they were not allowed to name their child what they wanted. The name was Akuma, which translates to devil in Japanese, and it created a huge frenzy in Japan that year, so much that the parents were prohibited from using the name. I guess if the culture is superstitious and the name is actually offensive, this is fair enough. Plus, the people who banned it did have some good reasons for doing so, citing that they worried that when the child grew up, he may be bullied for the name. I guess that it might be hard to make friends too if your name was literally devil, because people might be less trusting. Plus, you yourself might be less trusting if you've been picked on your whole life for the fact your parents gave you an offensive name. Number 9. There's a few countries in the world that have incredibly strict naming rules, and a handful of Scandinavian countries are the worst offenders for their name censorships. This name is banned in Iceland, and it'll surprise you because all it is Harriet. The names of two kids actually, siblings called Harriet and Duncan, are both banned in Iceland, because kids' names have to be listed on the Icelandic National Register of Persons. They also have some more specific criteria, like all the letters have to be letters in the Icelandic alphabet, and it has to be able to be pronounced in Icelandic. Unfortunately, Duncan has a C in it, which is not in the alphabet, and Harriet is unpronounceable using Icelandic enunciations. Even crazier than that is they're not legally allowed to have their names on their passports, so their passport just says girl and boy respectively. Number 8. Now, the United States are not actually that strict with their baby naming laws, but sometimes certain judges in certain states may rule against them. And in 2013, that's exactly what one judge in Nashville, Tennessee did, saying that two parents were not allowed to call their kid what they wanted. So what was the name, you ask? It was Messiah. In the Bible Belt of America, it's hardly surprising that one judge took issue with it, and straight up ordered them to rename the 7-month-old to Martin, claiming that the word Messiah is a title, and it's a title that has only been earned by one person, and that one person is Jesus Christ. It must suck pretty bad for those parents when first of all they're not allowed to call their kid what they like, and then they're ordered a specific name to change it to. I know this doesn't really tie into banned names, but since we are talking about the United States, I have a friend that works at a hospital, and a mother ended up naming her twin boys Orangejello and Lemonjello. But when it was spelled out, it was Lemonjello and Orangejello. I just thought I had to add that in. Number 7. This is the entry on the list that won't surprise anybody at all, but the name Adolf Hitler is banned. Well, it's banned outright in Austria and Germany, just like any other symbols associated with the Nazis like swastikas, and is frowned upon in other parts of the world. Though it is worth to note that one family in New Jersey named their kids Adolf Hitler and Joycelynn Aryan Nation. Of course, there are still people in Germany called Adolf, but almost all of those people were born before 1942, and they live in areas of Germany which were once the parts known as West Germany. In East Germany, the sector controlled by the USSR after the war, the name is almost completely obsolete, because under Soviet rule, it was a lot easier for people to change their names to avoid getting a bad rep. Number 6. I already mentioned that countries in Scandinavia have crazy baby name rules, but on the other side of the globe, New Zealand is a pretty close second to Iceland, Norway, and Sweden in terms of what ridiculous names they won't let people have. So many names, in fact, that you could probably make a whole other list of top 10 names banned in New Zealand alone. So here are some of my favorites. First are the names Master and Justice, which I guess are banned because they're titles, which is like the Messiah thing, only less religious. But if you want to stick to the religion, Lucifer is banned too, which is just Akuma all over again. But then there's other names where you kind of have to agree that you shouldn't call a kid that, like the word anal that makes it onto their banned name list. And then there were also some parents who genuinely thought the name sex fruit was a good name for a kid. Yeah, seriously. Thank God the authorities intervened with that one. Number 5. Just over a year ago, one mother from Wales in the United Kingdom was told she couldn't call her two twins what she wanted, which is a pretty big deal considering the UK isn't known for having strict name regulations at all. But it comes from the fact she wanted to name the boy Preacher, which is not so weird, but she still wasn't allowed it, and the girl Cyanide. There wasn't much explanation for Preacher, but she argued pretty aggressively to be allowed to call the baby girl Cyanide, though she still wasn't allowed to. She claimed that cyanide has positive connotations, because it was the poison that killed both Hitler and Goebbels. But ultimately, the court ruled that the two names were not in the best interest of the children, and they might be mocked growing up. To add more context to this story, all of the mother's 5 children are now in the care system because she has a history of drug abuse and mental illness. Hopefully they wind up with better families. Number 4. Just like New Zealand, Sweden is another country I already mentioned briefly, which is famous for its naming restrictions. It's not even as simple as a pre-approved list, but rather the names have to be judged and approved by the National Tax Board. The Swedish naming laws originate from allegedly disreputable people taking on noble names, and you're still not allowed to give a kid a noble name if they're not of noble blood, which is pretty old-fashioned. But that's not the case I'm talking about. I'm talking about when in 2008, it was reported that the parents were not allowed to name their baby girl Elvis after Elvis Presley, because the tax board deemed it a name more suitable to a boy. They originally appealed against it, but I have no news on how they managed to get the decision overturned or not. Though they said they're going to keep calling her Elvis regardless, and I guess no one can really stop them if it becomes more of a nickname. Number 3. News broke last spring that Saudi Arabia had decided they were going to ban 50 names, and there was a bit of a stir with people going to find out if their names were on that list. And would you know, a lot of people's names were, because of the main reasons for banning them were either because they were non-Arabic versions of other names, or because they were thought too Western in their origin. Along with that are names with religious or royal connotations, like the name Malak, meaning angel, or Malika, meaning queen. Then there's Binyamin, the Arabic version of Benjamin, which is suspected to be banned because of it also being the name of the Prime Minister of Israel. Some of the Western names they banned are common ones like Elaine, Linda, Alice, and Lauren. Number 2. Like the US, Mexico is a country divided into multiple states, and one of these states is Sonora, and they're waging a real war against weird baby names currently. At the top of their list is the name Hermione, and yes, it is banned because of its association with Harry Potter. And before you ask why is the name Hermione banned but not the name Harry Potter, well, they're both banned. And they're not even the funniest banned names. You also can't name your kid James Bond or Lady Di. On top of those names, some which are borderline normal and actually are normal in other countries, they also take the more conventional route of banning names like Robocop and Circumcision. Interestingly, these names were taken from the Register of Mexican Citizens, so they've all been used before, meaning there actually are people in Mexico called James Bond and Robocop. Number 1. In Sweden, you can't name a kid Superman, and to go back to the exact same state in Mexico for the last entry on this list, you also can't name a kid their Batman. In fact, there's a bunch of countries in the world that have banned the name Batman from being used. Though if you're absolutely dying to break tradition when Bruce Wayne would still be acceptable, it's banned in Australia as well, which we haven't got to yet on this list. But they also banned some more ridiculous names like Postmaster General, Spinach, IKEA, and Marijuana. What I like most about this is how ridiculous some of them are. So crazy that you know them being banned has to come from some lunatic actually wanting to name their kid Scrotum or iMac to begin with. That was our list of the top 10 names you won't believe are illegal. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss a video in the future. And hit the like button too so we can hit the golden like of 1,000. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace!